Imagine, you are 18 years old. You haven't slept in 4 full days.
Wow, 4 days.
4 whole days. Your body is running on nothing but adrenaline, cold rain, and, maybe a few hastily eaten sandwiches.
That sounds absolutely miserable.
Right. So you wake up in the passenger seat of this heavy transport truck and you're just hurtling down the highway.
Okay.
You look over and you see your driver completely unconscious.
Oh, no way.
Yes. His head is slumped forward, his eyes are shut, his hands are just locked onto the wheel, and you are like seconds away from a catastrophic crash.
That is terrifying.
What do you do? I mean, do you scream? Do you grab the wheel?
I'd panic, obviously.
Well, in 1970, an 18-year-old sound crew worker named Kenny Denton experienced this exact scenario.
And what did he do?
His reaction. He literally just closed his eyes and went right back to sleep.
It completely defies every basic human survival instinct we possess.
It totally does. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are heading straight into the heart of the legendary 1970 Isle of Wight Festival.
A truly wild event.
Absolutely. And we're using some incredibly rich source material today. Specifically, excerpts from Kenny Denton's own memoir, There Ain't No Rules in Rock and Roll.
Such a great title, by the way.
It really is.
Yeah.
But we are not just looking at this as, a piece of music history. We want to explore the actual mechanics of this event.
Right.
Because this is a fascinating real-time study in how human beings handle immense pressure. We're talking about truly impossible scale and just biological bone-deep exhaustion.
Yeah, to really understand that extreme behavior, you have to understand the environment that produced it.
Exactly.
We have this really compelling contrast that frames the entire story. On one hand, you have the promoter of the festival.
Right, Ron Foulk.
Yeah, and he remembers the weekend as this out-of-control, terrifying monster. But then, on the exact same island, you have Kenny Denton experiencing it as pure, unadulterated privilege.
Like it was the best time of his life.
Exactly. He's out there watching rock legends change flat tires in the mud and, surviving that near-fatal drive home.
Well, let's start with the physical reality of the festival itself, because the logistics laid out in the source are just staggering.
Staggering is the right word.
By Friday, the crowd had grown to an estimated 600,000 people.
600,000, that's huge.
Just think about that number for a second. The year prior, Woodstock drew roughly 400,000.
Right, and Woodstock is the famous one.
Exactly. The Isle of Wight pulled in 50% more people. But here is the critical difference. It's an island.
Oh, yeah. That changes everything.
You can only get there by ferry or hovercraft. And the normal day-to-day population was less than 100,000.
So you are dealing with a massive infrastructural bottleneck.
Yeah, it's like inviting a massive metropolis to crash a tiny, quiet rural village for the weekend.
Adding 500,000 people to a contained landmass isn't just a crowd control issue.
No, not at all.
It is a rapid depletion of basic human necessities. You suddenly need food, fresh water, and sanitation for a population equivalent to a major city.
All dropped onto this quiet village for a single weekend. Kenny actually jokes in his memoir that with that amount of sheer human tonnage crowding onto the island,
Yeah.
it's a wonder the Isle of Wight didn't physically sink right into the ocean.
Honestly, it's a valid point.
But the pressure of that reality rested squarely on the shoulders of Ron Foulk.
The promoter.
Right.
Go ahead.
He and his brother Ray, through their company Fiery Creations Ltd., they organized this massive undertaking.
And Ron Foulk was managing a situation that was, frankly, mathematically bound to fail.
Completely.
By the time Monday morning rolled around and the festival was closing, he delivered a very famous quote.
Oh, I know this one.
He said, "This is my last festival. It began as a beautiful dream, but it has got out of control and became a monster."
You can just hear the absolute defeat in his voice.
Oh, definitely.
For management, that level of scale is pure liability. But I want to look at this from the bottom up rather than the top.
Okay, let's do that.
Because Kenny Denton wasn't in some management tent calculating the legal liability of 600,000 unwashed fans.
Right, he was right in the thick of it.
Exactly. He was an 18-year-old kid getting paid to work side stage, backstage, and out in the front enclosure.
What's fascinating here is that for him, the monster simply didn't exist.
Not at all.
He wasn't responsible for the infrastructure, so he didn't see the cracks forming in the foundation. He just saw the history being made.
He writes about how honored he felt to be there in the trenches.
Oh, I bet.
He was watching the established legends and the newcomers who were about to define the next decade.
Artists like Tony Joe White, right?
Yeah, Tony Joe White, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and Kristofferson.
Incredible lineup.
He considered it a profound privilege to witness the end of one musical era and the beginning of the next.
It really reveals something fundamental about how human beings process massive events.
How so?
Well, your perception of a crisis is almost entirely dictated by your proximity to the responsibility.
Oh, that makes total sense. If it's not your job to fix the plumbing, you just enjoy the music.
Exactly.
But, okay, even if you aren't managing the plumbing or the food supply, a crowd of 600,000 people is a very real, very intimidating physical presence.
Oh, absolutely. It's an ocean of people.
Right. If you are an artist walking out there, you are confronting a literal sea of humanity. How do you actually face a crowd that size?
It's a huge challenge.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the memoir gives us two completely different master classes in stage presence.
Two very different approaches.
Yes, starting with Kristofferson on Wednesday.
Kristofferson walked into what can only be described as a hostile environment.
Extremely hostile.
He was comparatively unknown in the UK at the time, and the technical execution of his set failed almost immediately.
Yeah, Kenny notes that the live sound crew was completely indifferent to Kris and his band.
They just didn't care.
No, they didn't care to mix them properly, so through this massive festival sound system, they sounded awful.
Which is a disaster for any performer.
But I want to figure out why a crowd turns that quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just that they didn't know his songs, right? It feels like a physiological reaction to the environment.
It really is. When an artist performs live, they are relying on a biofeedback loop with the audience.
Okay, a biofeedback loop.
Yeah. The artist projects energy, the crowd absorbs it and returns it through applause or movement, and then the artist feeds off that response.
So what happens when the sound is bad?
Bad sound completely severs that loop. The artist can't hear the crowd is just getting hit with distorted noise, and the entire organism turns on itself out of sheer frustration.
And turn on him they did. They became unfairly hostile.
Really aggressive.
Yeah, actively heckling him and shouting for him to play cover songs by other, more famous artists.
Ouch!
So think about it. You are relatively unknown, your equipment is failing, and hundreds of thousands of people are aggressively rejecting you.
Most people would break.
Right. The instinctive reaction is to fight back, to yell at the crowd, or just walk off the stage.
But Kristofferson does none of those things. He deploys this masterful diffusion tactic.
It's so good.
He doesn't go to war with the audience, but he also doesn't fold.
He just leans into this incredibly dry, bulletproof humor.
Yes.
When they shout for covers, he respectfully deflects. He says, "We only play the songs that I wrote, so maybe someone else will be along later and play that for you."
He is validating their frustration without compromising his own set list. It's brilliant.
And it gets even more absurd. While he's tuning his guitar between songs, a stage telephone, which, why is there even a ringing telephone on a festival stage to begin with?
Who knows?
Right, it starts ringing loudly right there on the platform.
Talk about bad timing.
Kris just steps up to the microphone and says, "Will someone get that, or do I have to do everything around here?"
He is openly acknowledging the chaos.
Totally.
He is signaling to the audience that he sees the disaster unfolding, and he's choosing not to be broken by it.
And his sign-off is legendary.
Oh, I love this part.
Toward the end of the set, speaking over the intro of a song to this massive, annoyed crowd, he says, "I can't believe I've been singing now for 20 minutes, but I bet you can."
That kind of self-deprecation requires profound emotional intelligence.
It really does.
And it also worked. The memoir notes he returned on Sunday to face a much more receptive audience.
Wow.
He survived the Wednesday disaster by simply refusing to let it damage his ego.
Now, contrast that survival tactic with John Sebastian's set on Saturday morning.
The completely different energy.
The complete inverse of Kristofferson's experience. Sebastian walks out onto this colossal stage entirely alone.
Just him and a guitar.
Yeah. Just a single guy holding an acoustic guitar facing a city's worth of people.
It's a crazy image.
Kenny points out that with an audience that massive, Sebastian could have easily been dismissed as a stand-in while the crew set up for a real band.
But Sebastian doesn't just survive the crowd, he actively conquers them.
He exploded into the audience with this magnetic charisma. Before the first song was even finished, he had all 600,000 of them completely under his control.
That is just wild.
He ended up carrying that audience through 21 songs. We are talking about nearly 3 hours of performance.
Just him.
Just him and a guitar.
The physical energy required to command that much space is difficult to comprehend.
There is this one detail from Kenny's perspective that just gave me chills when I read it.
Oh.
At one point, Sebastian shouts out to the crowd asking, "Can you hear me way up on the mountain?"
Because the crowd went back so far.
Exactly. Because the audience was so impossibly huge, it extended all the way to the back of the enclosure and then way up a hillside in the distance.
This is where the sheer physics of the event becomes staggering.
Yeah.
Well, sound travels at roughly 343 meters per second, or about 1,125 feet per second.
And Kenny notes there was a full 2-second delay before the crowd's response came back.
Right, so if you do the math on a 2-second round trip for sound, that means the people on that hill were over 1,000 feet away from the stage.
That's insane.
Over a quarter of a mile.
So he stands there in silence for 2 seconds, and then echoing back down the hill, sounding almost like a whisper because of the sheer distance, he hears this massive, "Yay!"
Incredible.
He played 3 encores, left the stage totally drained, and they were still screaming for him.
That's a true rock star moment.
Facing a crowd like that is like stepping into a high-stakes arena where everyone is waiting to see if you will fail.
Exactly.
You either have to rely on the graceful, ego-less survival tactics of Kristofferson, or you have to project the sheer, room-filling dominance of John Sebastian.
But both require total authenticity. You can't fake your way through an interaction with 500,000 people.
Very true. But, you know, the glamour of the stage is only a tiny fraction of the festival reality.
Oh, yeah. The real work happens backstage.
Eventually, the music stops, the crowds leave, and you are left with the brutal reality of the loadout.
Which is never fun.
After 5 days of glorious sunny weather, the luck finally runs dry.
The sky opens up.
The rain just starts pouring down right as the crew is beginning to de-rig the stages and pack up these massive transport trucks.
Mud everywhere.
Mud, rain, cold. We are talking about heavy, dangerous manual labor. Everyone is thoroughly exhausted.
And of course, things go wrong.
Of course. Right in the middle of this, Kenny and his crewmate Nev discover they have a puncture, a flat tire on their equipment truck.
Oh, that is the absolute last thing you want. Changing a flat tire on a heavy-duty commercial vehicle in a muddy field is not like changing a tire on a sedan on the shoulder of a highway.
No, it is not.
It requires serious physical exertion.
Vic and the rest of the crew are forced to keep loading the other truck to stay on schedule.
So they're on their own.
Yeah, leaving Kenny and Nev to wrestle with this massive wheel in the freezing rain.
Miserable.
They're covered in mud, struggling to lift the vehicle, when suddenly they hear a friendly voice behind them say, "Hi, would you like a hand?"
I love this part.
Right. And standing there is Kristofferson.
It's just so unexpected.
It's Kristofferson, a large man with a beard, completely unprompted.
Yeah.
And before Kenny or Nev can even formulate a polite refusal, Kris is down in the mud with them, physically hauling on the equipment to help change the wheel.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this completely upends the mythology of the rock star.
It really does.
I mean, the artist who just days before stood on stage and absorbed the hostility of hundreds of thousands of people doesn't retreat to a luxury hotel to nurse his wounds.
I had to ask, though, is this a profound lack of ego on his part? Or is it just the shared trauma of the mud?
That's a fair question.
Like when everyone is that cold and that tired, maybe the barrier between the star and the roadie just dissolves out of pure necessity.
It's likely a combination of both. You know, extreme environments have a tendency to strip away artificial social hierarchies.
Mother Nature doesn't care if you're famous.
Exactly. When you are standing in a muddy field in the rain, your status as a famous songwriter doesn't fix the truck. The problem requires a physical solution. And Kristofferson recognized that the only currency that mattered in that moment was manual labor.
That's a great way to put it.
It shows a deeply grounded character that survives even the absurdity of the music industry.
And it was incredibly fortunate that he helped them, because getting the tire fixed was just the beginning of their final challenge.
Oh, right. The drive back.
The festival was over, but the recordings still had to make it back to London.
Here's where things get really intense.
We are moving from the physical agony of the mud into a severe psychological and neurological crisis.
The journey home.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It is now Tuesday, the drive started on Monday after the festival.
Right.
Kenny, his co-worker Tony Carey, and their driver Neville had been working non-stop. None of them had achieved any meaningful sleep since the previous Friday.
That is roughly 96 hours of constant adrenaline-fueled wakefulness.
Which is insane to even think about.
To understand what is happening inside their bodies, you have to look at the neurology of extreme sleep deprivation.
What happens after 96 hours?
After that long, the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logical decision-making, essentially begins to shut down.
Wow.
Your cognitive impairment is equivalent to, or even worse than, being severely intoxicated.
So within minutes of leaving the festival gates, Kenny and Tony are completely passed out in the cab of the truck.
Not surprising at all.
But somewhere along the highway, Kenny's eyes drift open.
Oh.
He looks over at Tony, who is fast asleep. Then he looks over at Neville, the driver.
This is the part from the intro.
Yes. Neville's head is pointing straight down at the floorboards.
Mm-hmm.
His eyes are closed. His hands are clamped tightly onto the steering wheel.
So dangerous.
Neville is entirely unconscious while driving a heavy truck at highway speeds.
It is a moment of imminent, lethal danger.
And this is where Kenny's reaction is so fascinating. He doesn't scream.
No.
He doesn't lunge for the steering wheel to correct the truck. He doesn't even slam his hand onto the horn to jolt Neville awake.
Any normal person would.
But Kenny simply looks at him, closes his eyes, and goes straight back to sleep.
Which is just wild. But, when you look at the human threat detection system, primarily the amygdala, its job is to flood the body with adrenaline to initiate a fight-or-flight response.
But fight or flight requires energy.
Precisely. It requires metabolic resources.
Which they didn't have.
Right. When you have been awake for 4 days, your nervous system is so profoundly depleted that the brain literally cannot generate the chemical spike needed to panic.
That is deeply unsettling.
The biological demand for sleep simply overrides the biological instinct for survival. Kenny's brain assessed the lethal threat and determined that it didn't have the energy to care. It performed an emergency shutdown.
And sure enough, the very next thing Kenny experiences is being violently jolted awake as the truck runs completely off the highway.
Oh my God.
It begins rumbling along a raised grass bank. And we actually know what happened from the driver's perspective, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Kenny recently contacted Neville to ask what he remembered about the incident for the memoir.
Neville's recollection of that moment is incredibly vivid.
Neville says he remembers the sensation of dozing off, feeling the van drift off the road to the left, and traveling along that grass bank.
Scary stuff.
The intense vibration and the rumbling noise of the grass is what finally shocked his system back to consciousness.
Just in time.
He woke up fully, just in time to steer the truck back onto the actual road.
Thank goodness.
And the most surreal part, Neville says he glanced over, saw that Kenny and Tony had miraculously slept through the entire near-death experience, and he just shrugged and kept driving.
Unbelievable.
He literally thought to himself, all in a mobile day's work.
Talk about the sheer normalization of life-threatening chaos.
Right.
When you are living on the extreme edge of physical endurance, the extraordinary just becomes completely mundane.
They somehow navigated the rest of the journey and arrived back at their London hotel right as the morning breakfast service was starting.
I bet they were starving.
They were, having barely eaten for days. But the physical demand for rest was so absolute that the entire crew bypassed the food entirely, went straight up to their rooms, and collapsed into their beds.
Food didn't even matter anymore.
Nope. They slept entirely through Monday, not waking up until Tuesday morning.
Hunger was completely subjugated by the need for cellular repair.
When they finally woke up on Tuesday, they completed the mission.
The tapes.
Yes. They successfully delivered the 108 reels of festival tape safely back to Pi Studios.
It's honestly a miracle those tapes survived the journey.
It really is. And, it's worth noting that Kenny Denton makes a point in his writing to specifically thank Neville Crozier for helping piece together these incredible memories.
That's nice.
So, what does this all mean? When you step back and look at the entire scope of this event, it fundamentally changes how you consume music history.
It definitely shifts your perspective.
The next time you put on headphones to listen to a pristine, legendary live recording from 1970.
Yeah.
When you hear the roar of the crowd and the crystal clear vocals, you have to remember what you are actually hearing.
It's not just magic.
No. You aren't just listening to artists floating on clouds of inspiration. You are listening to the product of 18-year-old kids working until their brains literally shut down.
Right.
You are hearing the result of heavy manual labor in freezing mud, artists dodging hostility from 500,000 people, and roadies falling completely asleep at the wheel of a moving vehicle.
The contrast is jarring.
The art we get to enjoy is clean, but the mechanical process of capturing it was incredibly dangerous and messy.
This raises an important question, though, something worth considering long after you take those headphones off.
Oh.
Does knowing the chaotic, messy, and sometimes wildly unsafe reality behind a legendary piece of art make that art more valuable to us?
Because we now fully understand the human cost required to capture it.
Exactly. Or, on the flip side, does exposing the machinery strip away the polished magic we so desperately want to believe in?
Oh, man. That is a phenomenal question for you to ponder.
It really makes you think.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been great.
Keep looking for the hidden stories, the actual physics, and the messy reality behind the history you think you know. We'll catch you next time.